Hello everyone. I'll go over one of Wesley So's best games this year, perhaps even if you count 2017 as well. And he was playing against Magnus Carlsen in round 6 of the Altibox Norway, and I have to say he completely outclassed Magnus in this one. And they played an opening I like to play with black, or I like to face with black. And it's similar to the Caro-Kann, so I had a really nice time watching this game. I really enjoyed it. So d4, d5, c4, c6, the Slav defense, and Wesley So goes for c takes d5, the exchange Slav, c takes d5, and this now resembles the pawn of Caro-Kann pretty much, because in the pawn of Caro-Kann after c6, c4, after this exchange happens, the pawn structure is completely similar, and the ideas in both openings are very similar. Now they played about 10 moves of mainline theory. We have bishop to f4, knight to f6, knight to c3, knight to c6, both sides develop normally, knight f3, a6, preventing knight to b5 or bishop to b5, rook to c1, bishop to f5, and the position will be almost completely symmetrical. It is completely symmetrical now, and it will continue to look like this for a while. e3, opening up the light squared bishop, rook c8, bishop e2. Bishop to d3 could be played as well, but if white wants to go for an advantage, then this is better, and you also aren't risking the move knight to b4, which would dislodge the bishop. But on the other hand, there are ideas. If your bishop is on d3 and knight to b4 is played, you can play bishop to c1 and queen to c2 afterwards, if black doesn't exchange the bishops. So those positions are okay as well. Here we have e6 by Magnus, copying Wesley's plan. Castles, knight to d7. This is a fairly uncommon move. It's only been played about 30 times. The most common move is bishop to d6. Trying to exchange the dark squared bishops, but knight to d7. And now this is what Wesley plays now is the main response to the move knight to d7. He plays knight to a4. And this move is preparing a queenside pawn push, which is in some cases going to sacrifice a pawn, and in most cases going to gain a positional advantage on the queen side. However, the variation that they played has never been played before. After bishop to e7 by Magnus going for castling, h3 is the first novelty of the game. And this is of course making room for the dark squared bishop if black wants to exchange it, and it's also making luft for the white king. Now after castling we have a3. And this plan of a3 b4 is common in this position and in the pawn of Caro-Kann as well, but in this position it has never been played before. Knight to a5 by Magnus, and now knight to c5, entering the weakest square in black's position. Knight to c4. Now taking would be risky, because you are always risking this move losing a piece. So now knight to c4, and now of course taking on c5 two times is a possibility, winning a pawn. But now b4, and this now allows for Magnus to win a pawn temporarily. Now he plays knight takes c5 and d takes c5, and he of course can take on a3 now. So knight takes a3, he's a pawn up. However, after knight takes c5, you might be wondering why doesn't Wesley first capture this knight on c4, but if he takes bishop takes c4, black is simply better, because knight a4, bishop to b3, knight to b2, queen to e2, let's say this would be the best move, rook takes c1, rook takes c1, and now this is what they both must have seen, knight to d3, forking rook and bishop, and simply having a better position, because if this bishop falls, then this bishop in Magnus's position doesn't have a counterpart, and Wesley's dark squares will be weak for the rest of the game, and that's why they didn't go for that. Even though this pawn structure is favorable for white, I don't think it compensates enough for the loss of the bishop pair. So after knight takes c5, we have d takes c5, of course capturing with the d pawn, capturing with the b pawn would be too weak, and this also gives squares for the white knight to enter the position more comfortably. Now knight takes a3, Magnus wins the pawn temporarily, but this temporary pawn sacrifice was actually a very ingenious way for Wesley So to resolve the tension in the center, the middle game tension. Now he plays knight to d4, the newly freed up square is now available for the knight, and you can see already that the positioning of the knight more than compensates for the loss of the a pawn, which is going to be regained anyway. We have bishop to e4 by Magnus. He is trying to say that he got a strong square for the bishop as well, but after f3, the bishop simply has to move. Bishop g6, now queen to b3 attacking the knight, knight to c4, and now bishop takes c4, d takes c4, and queen takes c4, and Wesley So did regain his pawn. And now he simply has a better position. His pawn structure is favorable, his pieces are more active. Despite the fact that he gave up the bishop pair, I believe that his knight is stronger than either of black's bishops, and it's controlling more key squares. Queen to e8 by Magnus, trying to get onto this diagonal, trying to get into white's position. Bishop to g3, perhaps trying to transfer the bishop here to be able to do something on this diagonal. Now e5 by Magnus, a fairly aggressive move, a pawn sacrifice, which can't be taken really, because if bishop takes e5, then bishop takes c5, and black is going to be able to regain the pawn. It's going to be favorable for him. So now knight to b3 is played, which is the best move. And now the knight is threatening to enter a5 in some positions and put pressure on b7. And it's also virtually stopping the move b5 at any point, because this square is going to become too weak and the pawn is going to become a passed pawn. So a fairly strong move. And here Magnus plays the losing blunder. This position is 0.4 for white. Definitely not winning. Slightly positionally better, but not winning. And Magnus's next move is simply losing. And after that, Wesley So doesn't give up an inch of his advantage, and he just keeps increasing it until Magnus resigns. Magnus played bishop to d8, which is a very strange move. Of course, he's trying to defend the pawn, but the pawn was indirectly defended anyway. And perhaps he was trying to transfer the bishop here, but I don't see a justification for such a passive move in this position, in which the bishop, the queen, and the knight are already controlling the entire position. The f8 rook is out of the game, it has to be developed. The c8 rook doesn't have that much influence in the game, really, apart from stopping the c-pawn from advancing, and the move such as bishop to d8 is simply bad. The best move after knight to b3 was the move e4, sacrificing a pawn, and after f takes c4, queen to c6, you have some initiative in this position, and if at any point white tries to defend the pawn with the rook, then bishop to g5 would be good, and black would regain a pawn, and this would free up his pieces. The rook would be able to move, and the position would actually be equal. But after bishop to d8, now Wesley senses blood and he starts attacking. Queen to d5, putting pressure on the e5 pawn, and the pawn can't be defended anymore, really. Queen to b5, counter-attacking on b4, but now bishop takes e5, and if queen takes b4, it would be completely losing, because if queen takes b4, bishop to d6, this is more than +2. This bishop is the best piece on the board. It's almost equally good as a queen, because it controls everything, and it's creating a lot of tactical possibilities. Of course, the knight is defended, so the bishop is threatening to take the rook. But he didn't play that. After bishop takes e5, of course, Magnus saw that he can't take. He played bishop to e7, which is unfortunately for him equally bad. The best move was rook to e8, trying to develop the rook and attacking the bishop. But now Wesley plays queen to d2, now defending the b4 pawn. Rook f to d8, bishop d6. Now this is a monster bishop. If black ever takes, then the d6 pawn is just queening. There's no way to stop it. Bishop f6, e4 now. Trying to play e5, just killing the dark squared bishop. h6, knight to d4, centralizing the knight once again, and this knight simply has to be taken. If the knight is not taken, then white is winning. Okay, white is winning anyway, but the knight is much stronger than the bishop. So bishop d4, queen d4, rook to e8, rook f to e1, and you can see already that this position is so much better for white that Magnus just has no chance. And this positional play, which led to this pawn structure, to this bishop being that good, is, I believe, one of Wesley's best games this year. I really think that this is one of his best games. So king to h7 by Magnus, trying to save the king, because Magnus doesn't really have a move in this position. The rooks are optimally placed, despite being badly placed, because there are no better squares. The queen is okay, I mean, there's nothing much you can do. And now Wesley starts attacking. g4. f6, f4, hyper aggressive, queen to c6, f5, chasing the bishop away. I just loved those moves. Bishop f7, h4, rook to a8, rook to c2, trying to double up rooks and controlling some more files around the king. a5. Now this is a mistake. I believe the best move was queen to a4, trying to attack the rook at least, forcing it to move. And here Wesley played g5. We have bishop to h5. And now the best move, apparently, was g takes f6. And this would lead to a faster victory, because after g f6, b5, this is just deflecting the queen away from the defense. Queen takes b5, now rook to b2, once again gaining a tempo on the queen, queen d7, and now queen takes f6. And this position is much better. However, after bishop to h5, Wesley So played g6, which is good as well. It's creating a lot of attacking chances too, and he's counting on his c pawn to win the game. That's simply it. After king h8, he plays b5, queen takes b5, rook to b2, and after queen c6, queen to d7 was a better move. He plays rook to b6, gaining another tempo, and now there's just no way to stop the pawn. This pawn is too strong and the bishop is supporting it perfectly. Queen c8, queen to d5, double attacking the b7 pawn. a4, rook takes b7, rook to g8, now c6 is played and Magnus Carlsen resigned. I mean, okay, there's no way to hold this position. And after the move bishop to h5, perhaps the reason Wesley played g6 and not g takes f, because it's completely killing off the bishop. And there really is no way to get the bishop into the game. So Wesley So is playing a piece down and a pawn down, and Magnus Carlsen is playing a piece down and a pawn down. Wesley has a passed pawn on c6, which is inevitably going to queen, and the rooks are extremely passive for black. So a great game by Wesley So. He's now at 3 points at the Altibox Norway. Magnus is at 3.5, so just a half point behind. And it remains to be seen who is going to win. And I'm looking forward to the other games. Okay, thanks very much for watching. I hope you liked this amazing game by Wesley So, and stay tuned for more chess. Thanks very much. Bye.